Hey there, Ocean Park Community Church family. Pastor Michael here, and we are on day 6 of the Bible Challenge for this month. I hope you are enjoying it. I hope you are staying in there. I haven't seen a lot of people join, unfortunately, but hopefully you're doing this even though you haven't joined, and you are trying to keep up with staying in the Bible for 30 days at least. Today's verse is, oops, I have it over here. Sorry. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be satisfied. Do you hunger? I mean, really hunger and thirst for the for the righteousness of God? You know, a lot of people talk about going to church and not being fed. We're going to get to that in just a second, but first I want to tell you a little story. You may have heard of it, but it happened in May of 1846. Almost 200 men, women, and children, they left Missouri in a wagon train trying to get to California. Unfortunately, they never made it. They left kind of late, I believe, in the year for that, and then they decided to try to take a shortcut. And the shortcut was known as the Hastings Cutoff, if I remember it right. And it had never been used by wagons before. It had been used by only people on horseback. So this was like the first group to try it with wagons. This group later became known as the Donner Party. I'm sure you probably heard of them. They were famous or infamous, however you want to call it, because of allegations of cannibalism that occurred while they were waiting for their rescue. We may find that thought repugnant and disgusting, and we like to believe that no matter what, we would never do such a thing. It would be more accurate to say, I have not been that hungry yet, than to say I would never feel that way or I would never eat that. The survivors were high in the Sierra Madre for 3 months with no food at all. And in some of my sermons I've preached already, I've talked about we've talked about people who were martyred for their faith, and what would you do in their position, and the fact is you don't know what you would do until you're there. So unless you've been in those people's position, you just don't know. So it's something we shouldn't be judgmental of about people's actions in situations that we've never been in, especially extreme situations like the situations the Donner Party was in. Going 3 months with virtually no food. Situations where people are facing martyrdom in the decisions they make. So let's go back to what I kind of started with. People that constantly complain about I wasn't fed at church, or they complain about the way they were fed at church. And I know that means that they didn't learn anything useful, or they didn't feel the presence of God. I've also heard the charge that, I don't like doing it that way, or I don't like that version of the Bible. And, I kind of look at that like I did when my kids were younger, and they were complaining there was nothing to eat in the house when, the cupboards were full, the fridge was full, and you'd point out things and they would be like, no, I don't want that. So when people say they weren't fed in their church, or they don't like this or they don't like that, my response to them is kind of like this: then I guess you really weren't hungry. Who doesn't like what is spread on God's table? I guess the best way to put it. The one that isn't hungry is the one who doesn't like it. The one who's seeking satisfaction and validation, the one who wants to pick and choose the way we will worship, the one that doesn't think they need God because they're full of themselves. Matthew 5:6, where Jesus commends the ones that hunger and thirst for righteousness. Think Donner Party hungry, desperate, without pride or will, with one goal and one goal only: to be fed. Can you imagine that feeling? I pray that we've never been that hungry. Maybe some of us have, for physical food. But I'm sure we can imagine it. We've all been hungry, because we haven't eaten. We skipped lunch, or we skipped a meal or two for whatever reason. And so we're hungry. We're not on the verge of death, but we're hungry. But we need to come to God. We need to come to any type of devotion or teaching of His Word without pride, without with that one goal and one goal only, and that's to be fed by His Word, to eat readily from whatever it is that God lays on the table. Now, for those who really know me, I'm a very picky eater. I don't like hardly any vegetables, for instance. But when I'm in the presence of others, I will eat as best I can. I will eat, what's put on the table as a show, not only as a show of respect, but because the person who put that on the table for me did it, because they were trying to show that nicety. What God is putting on the table for us is His love. And who doesn't want to be fed by the love of God? To accept, we need to accept whatever condition, correction, or assignment that God throws on that table without hesitation. When we come to church and worship in such a way according to Jesus, we will leave filled and content. So when we leave still hungry and discontented, then whose fault is it really? Is it my fault as the preacher? Or is it your fault as the person who was looking for something else to be fed? Think about that. When you go to church, it may not be the pastor's message that's what's being fed to you. God may have something else in mind for you. So you don't blame it on the pastor if you're not fed at church. You're just looking to be fed a specific way, and that's not necessarily how God is intending to feed you that day. Keep your heart and mind open for not only what God is going to feed you, but how God is going to feed you. Thanks, guys, so much for watching. If you haven't already joined the YouVersion Bible study, go ahead and look me up on YouVersion. If you don't have an account, download the app, get an account, sign in, look for me. I am MBWillis85 on YouVersion, and once I've accepted your friend request, then you can see the studies that I'm in, and you can just add the Sermon on the Mount study to your list. You can catch up. You can do as many days as you want to catch up, and then we're on board, and you can watch these videos every day whenever you want. If you have any comments or insights, or how God may have touched you in today's devotion, please leave me a note in the YouTube comments below, or if it's easier, in the Facebook comments for the reminder post that's put on the Ocean Park Community Church Facebook group every day. So thanks again for watching and sharing with me this online Bible study for November. God God bless, and we'll see you soon. Bye.